it's Josh coming to you from the RPM shop. Just wanted to cover these new Striker 20s. They just hit the market this couple, 3 months ago. They're absolutely on fire. And we owe it to the consumer base out there to help you turn wrenches on them and just feel a little bit more comfortable about your purchase. So we're going to run through this thing as far as how to take the bowstring off, how to replace the yoke cables, link strings, how to adjust draw weight, draw length, swapping limbs in and out, all of that stuff. So they're pretty simplistic. I mean, they're not all that intimidating to work on or even look at. There's just not a whole lot of moving parts to it. But the first thing that you're going to want to do when you start working on these bows is you're going to want to back off the limb bolts. And for the sake of video, what I've done is I've loosened up a lot of these bolts just so that we don't bore you to tears as you watch me turn wrenches on these things. So you want to make sure that you've got about 3/8 of an inch of gap in between the riser, this is the riser, and the limb pocket. Once you've got that, then you know that the bowstring is going to be pretty loose and you're going to be able to take it off easily. Once you've got that, then you're going to pull the link strings off of the roller guide. So you're just going to pull these off so those go straight, and then you're just going to set the roller off to the side. Then you're going to grab this bow, and as loose as this one is, you're just going to grab it and then go ahead and pop the string off the top, pop the string off the bottom, and then set that off to the side. Now everything's going to go super limp at this point. Now that you've got it open, you're going to take these draw stop screws out. Make sure that you put these draw stop screws back in, because if you don't, these camless bows will lock all the way back. So you've got to make sure that you put these draw stop screws back in before you draw the bow. Trust me, I've done it a couple times. It scares the snot out of you. So then once you've got it to this particular point, I'm going to back this off just a little bit. And the way that you open this hinge pocket up is you're just going to take this yoke cable out of that yoke, set the yoke off to the side, and you're going to do the same. I'm going to slide this over so I don't lose the bottom end of this, and then you're going to take those cables out, and then this whole limb assembly will come apart like that. Then I'm going to spin this around so we don't lose it, and because that limb will lay down just like that. So then this will open this up and allow you to get to these hinge screws. It's just an 1/8 inch Allen wrench. Loosen them up about a quarter of a rotation, tighten them all the way back down. 1, 2, 3, 4, do it to all of them. If you're going to change out these energy limbs, we're going to be offering a mag version of this particular bow that's a 55 to 75 pound, so that the guys that want to shoot with the 65% let off can get more juice out of them. It's these two screws here, that's going to come off, and then you're just going to replace this limb. Put the two screws back in and you're back off to the races. Now on the top end, if you're going to change these string limbs to an XL version, a long draw, or you've got a long draw and go into a shorter one, then you're going to have to take both of these two saddles off. So the front saddle just comes off with an 1/8 inch Allen wrench here. You just break that loose, take it off, put it onto the new limb assembly. Then this one here, the top saddle, you just come in here with these two 1/8 inch Allen screws here, pull those out, and then this top saddle will come off. When you take these cables and move them from the factory set 0% let off, which is this groove here, back to the 65% let off, with the standard limbs, you're only going to get 30, 32 pounds, maybe 33 pounds of draw weight. Just be warned about that. Still shoots great, still has, I mean, just silky smooth, but you're not going to get max draw weight when you're at 65 pounds. That's why we're going to offer those mag limbs, so that guys can get up into that draw weight range, up to the 45 pound draw weight range, but it's going to require a different set of limbs. Make sure that these saddles, and you'll see that they're not the same on both sides, so they're longer on one side than the other. Make sure that those match, and that these longer sides are on the rest or shelf side of the bow. They have to be on that side. If not, these cables are going to rub on this limb assembly. If you've got it backwards, it's going to be pretty obvious to see that. So then the last thing that you're going to want to do when you go back to limb assembly is grab yourself some white lithium grease, and you're going to go right down here on the limb tip. Let's see here, right here on the limb tip, and you don't need a whole lot, just a little bit here, and then right here on these corners you want a little bit and a little bit. And that's all you're going to do as far as the white lithium grease. Then you're going to set this limb assembly off to the side. Just try not to get it on mom's tablecloth. The next thing that you're going to want to do is take your limb pocket, and right back here on this rocker, make sure you put some lithium grease right here. And it doesn't have to be a whole lot. That's plenty, because it's going to squirt out, because that's where all the pressure goes as far as that limb rocking back. It's going to put it onto this this limb pocket. So then you're going to reassemble, and if Brian can zoom in on this, there's a nylon washer and a stainless steel washer. Make sure that those go on top of your energy limb. They have to go on top so that everything stays, stays the way that it's supposed to. So then what you're going to want to do is you're going to slide this limb assembly back into the limb pocket. Make sure it seats all the way down. Then you're going to come back to the yokes, and that other limb assembly is going to come up. And so if you've got it attached, if this yoke is attached to this side on the bottom limb, then it's going to go to the bottom so they crisscross. Just like that. Then you're going to install the yoke down here, because they do have a tendency to come apart just like that one did. And then you're going to put some tension on them, bring this up. I'll slide this back so you can see what we're doing here. They're going to cross, and then this crimp goes into that yoke just like that. And then you're good to go. And again, you can see now what I'm talking about. This side is longer, the saddles are longer, and it's on the rest shelf side. If it's on this side, it's backwards. You got to redo it. And make sure that this limb assembly goes down to the bottom, that limb assembly comes up to the top, so that everything is on the rest shelf side. So once you've got it like that, then you're basically ready to rock and roll. You can apply a little bit of outside pressure by putting the string back on, just like this. Bring it back up. So that goes super loose like that. And then you just, again, adjust the draw weight by increasing or turning in the limb bolts. Every full rotation is roughly 4 pounds. We recommend going 1 full rotation on the top, 1 full rotation on the bottom. That'll bring you up roughly 4 pounds. And if you want to keep going, then you do another full rotation, full rotation, full rotation, full rotation. That's how you increase the draw weight. The next thing you want to do, and again, I'm not kidding, you need to make sure that these draw stop screws are put back in. Put them into that saddle just like that, both top and bottom, just like that. And then you're going to reinstall this roller. So this goes back on and then goes together. Make sure that these link strings don't touch. If you rotate this around, you'll see that these link strings are touching. You don't want that. You want them to be open on the gap, or have a gap in between rather. So make sure that they look like that when they're installed. Now, if you're replacing yoke cables, things of that nature, when you take out these button head screws, take them out, take the yoke cables off, put a new set of yoke cables on there, put these screws in tight enough that the cable can't fall out of the saddle, but don't tighten them all the way down. And the reason for that is that's how you get the adjustment. That's how you adjust this outside limb lean. Sorry, geez, well, Friday. It must be Friday. Anyway, so that's how you adjust this. So you're going to put more tension. You can imagine if you put more tension on this side, it's going to force this limb this way. If you put more tension on this side, it's going to force the limb this way. So what you're going to want to do is get this bow, have these fairly loose, but again, not to where that the cable can pop out. Then you're going to adjust this draw weight to where it feels comfortable for you. And then what you're going to want to do is make sure that this bowstring is running dead center down the back side of this string limb. And if it's not, what you're going to want to do is put one hand on the hinge, one hand on the limb tip, and if you're going to force it this way, force it over just a little past center, and then these cables will slide. Once it's straight, then tighten these 2 button head screws down, and then it'll stay straight. You won't have any issues with it that way. But if you do start to get some lean out of these limbs like this, then what you're going to want to do is just loosen this set screw, loosen that set screw, force the limb over a little past center, and then tighten it back down, and it'll stay there. Other than that, that's about it as far as adjusting, these outer limb assemblies. The last thing that I'd like to discuss with you is how to check it for tiller to make sure that this top hinge system is rotating over at the exact same time the bottom is. So what you're going to want to do is this point here on the riser, you're going to want to measure from that point to the string. And it happens to be 6 inches here. Measure from that point to the string. And if it's off, even 1/8 of an inch, you need to adjust it either with the limb bolts. That's the easiest way to do it. Or what you can do is you can actually take the link string roller back off, take the string off, and then what you're going to want to do, let me show you before we get quite that far. If this string, if this measurement here needs to decrease, if it needs to get smaller, then what you're going to want to do is shorten this link string. And the way that you do that is just simply by twisting it. It's super easy. So 3 revolutions, 2 revolutions, 1 revolution, you can really do some fine-tune adjustment with these link strings. That's the reason why we left those as strings and not cables. It would have been easier for us to do them with cables, but you lose a lot of the flexibility, a lot of the fine-tuning that you have with the Striker 20 if these are cables. So then what you want to do is, if you want to decrease this measurement, which is going to close this hinge gap, and you can see this, is that as I move that forward, it decreases that measurement. You just want to shorten this string. And the way that you do that is take the bowstring off, then you're going to come down to this yoke, take it out of the yoke cable, and then you're just going to twist it. So you're going to see that the cable is already twisted, and then you're going to go 1 full rotation, 2 rotations, 3 rotations, or however many you want, depending on how big of a gap you need. And how much adjustment you need. Then you're going to force this thing back forward like that, put that crimp in that side, and it's just a word of caution: as you start to shorten these link strings, it becomes a little bit tougher to get these crimps back in. Get the crimps back in, put the bowstring back on, and then again measure it from the back of the riser up to the string. And so that measurement went down about 1/8 of an inch. And so then you measure this, you want this measurement and this measurement identical, or as close to identical as you can. Again, you can do it easily enough with the limb bolts, but if you really want to fine tune it, what you're going to want to do is make sure that you do it with those link strings. Again, put the roller back on, make sure you've got your draw stop screws in there, check it for draw weight, make sure it's exactly where you want it to be, and you're off to the races. So as simple as it is, these things are about as simplistic a bow. Maybe a recurve's a little bit more simple, but these things are basically bulletproof. I hope that you're enjoying yours. If you have any questions, feel free to give us a call in the office, 801-528-8076. And more importantly than all of that, doggone, I hope we get to see you out on the water here soon.